Hello guys, welcome to my channel Karvi Mental Health. And as you know, we are posting new series of Kehna Hai Kuch with Karvi, wherein we meet different people and talk about how psychology is valued in different fields of work. Today in episode 3, I have a person who is an artist, who is an architect and an urban designer as well. He is my eldest brother, Pratik Devi. So let's meet and let's talk about how psychology plays a role in architecture. Okay, so hi,
Hi.
can you tell something about you to us?
So I am an architect and urban designer. I am working on lots of public projects, and because of that, I have to work on psychology in urban spaces as well as whatever we design as our architecture.
Okay, okay. So, urban designing is a field of utility and aesthetics together. A lot of times you have to take consideration of how visually appealing a project is and how useful that particular design is. So, a lot of thinking around psychology of a client, how a client will feel in that space is taken in consideration. So, I want to know some of the things. First question being, how important does a role of psychology is in architecture?
I think the biggest driver of architecture or any urban design is psychology,
Okay.
because we have to deal with the person's psychological, the feeling matters.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you feel in the building or in a urban space is all dependent upon what you get in or absorb in from that space. So we have to understand psychology. In architecture it might be a psychology of person, in urban design it's a mob psychology.
Right.
So that is the first thing we need to understand. So before even starting the project, we have to understand our client, their psychology, in terms of urban spaces, mob, how they are going to use the space,
Right.
and so that becomes the most important part of the architecture.
Okay, okay. And how would you integrate or connect mental health to your designs?
Look, any building you enter, if that building or if that space, I will call it not a building, that space is beautiful, that space is good, your half of the mental stress
Hmm.
is released.
Right.
It's very much like going into the forest and just half of your problems are solved. Same if the building is nicely designed, building has lots of light and ventilation, play of light, it is properly proportioned,
Right.
it is properly proportioned to human scale,
Hmm.
then you just feel good. And that feel good factor is something which reduces your mental problems.
Right.
And mental problems I will to call stress.
Stress. Okay. And we know this whole generation or everything around us is about presentation today. So, what do you mean by aesthetically beautiful space in design?
Aesthetically beautiful space for me is what appeals you. I want just that person once goes there, he wants to be there in that space, or he wants to go again and again to that space. So
Right.
the best qualities are timelessness.
Mm-hmm.
So without the time, so certain temples, if you see, you go to certain temples, they are built in let's say 9th century or 10th century or 12th century. Still you want to go there again and again.
Right.
So that is the quality which architecture brings out. So
Mhm.
aesthetics is all about that, and we generally make sure that the materials we use, proportions we use, and we try to do less cosmetic materials. Like all has to be in the soul of the building.
Right, right, right. Okay. You work with public spaces. Urban designing, as you said, is about mob psychology, and that's why you encourage this social connectedness in your projects.
Yes.
So, what is the thought behind it? Why do you feel like fostering social interaction is important in this space?
Look, human is a basically element, social creature. He
Yeah.
wants to meet people, he wants to discuss.
Hmm.
And if you want to discuss encouraging or a progressive idea, then you have to be in such a space.
Yeah.
You cannot just discuss anything where there's a lots of litter around you, the space is not good. So we try to design public space where we need to encourage good conversations.
Hmm.
We need to encourage what you can say, progressive conversations.
Yeah.
We need to encourage that people discuss on ideas. So for that you need to create space. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
So we need to create where people like 5 to 10 people can sit together, have fun. So there are gardens, there are public gardens, there are amphitheaters we design, there are let's say spaces around the river, spaces, riverfront developments. So
Yeah.
all of that is very important for people to gather and gather in a good mood.
Right, right, right. We know how surrounding plays a role in someone's mental health, right? So, how important are the elements like light or green spaces, and how important it is for you in your design?
The most important part is the light, because just the quality of light can change your mood.
Yeah.
Just couple of trees and the landscape can change your mood. The light changes throughout the day as your moods. So morning it is different, the afternoon it is different, the evening it's different,
Right.
and artificial lighting is different. So that becomes the integral part of any of the design to lift up your mood. Only a one small ray of light can change your mood. So yes, that becomes the most critical part of architecture, light and landscape.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, this all was client centered. Now, I want to ask you a few questions about designer centered theories. So, basically, how do you check in or how do you practice your mental health calmness when you are designing a project?
Look, we have to be in client shoes when we are designing.
Right.
So we have to detach from ourselves. So that is the best way of tackling our own issues and problems. That I get detached when I am designing.
Right.
So that becomes a meditative process for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, as a designer, I have to become that person. I have to understand what he feels for whom I am designing.
Right.
I have to understand I have to imagine that space for him. So that becomes a complete detachment for me. I personally use travel for that matter. So when I'm traveling, I'm mostly it's simpler for me to get detached from my day-to-day life as well as my issues and my problems. So of course, as an architect or as a person, everybody has their own issues. But our field is very interesting because we have an opportunity to get in detached just because we are doing something from someone else.
Right, right, right. That's very nice. And do you take, as I call it, a mental health walk in a space that you are going to design? And how does it help you if you do?
I won't call it a mental health walk, but yes, we definitely take a walk where we are going to design. We understand what site, what can we do? Site is giving us as a resource. What all the elements are available on site, so we make sure that all those are integrated into our design, and our design is very site specific. So it is not something which is just comes from the top. So if the site demands something, we provide that. So to understand what site demands, we generally take lots of visits to that site. We do lots of interactions with the people. If it is a private client, then with that family, or we understand each one's psychology, because we design for the age of, let's say, 10 years to up to the age of 60 years.
Right.
So everybody is going to stay in that house.
Right.
From the kid to the elderly.
Yeah.
So we need to understand everybody's psychology and make sure that becomes their house. They own that in the end. And when it comes to public spaces, we need to understand the psychology of people. That we need to, if I am designing in, let's say, in Ahmedabad or in India, it will be very different. If I am designing somewhere outside India, the psychology will be very different.
Completely different.
If I am designing in the hot place like Delhi, it will be different. I am designing in Shimla, it will be different. The psychology.
Yeah.
Everything will depend upon the place and the context. So we have to absorb that place and context first, and that becomes most critical part, because psychology is very much dependent upon from where you come from.
Yeah, the background.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That's great. That's all for the video. But this was a very interesting conversation. Thank you for taking out time. And I hope you're liking the series that we are posting. And thank you for all the love that you're giving.
I think one thing you all must do is like and subscribe our channel. What she is doing is very, very interesting. And these small interactions will actually is an impetus for larger ideas. So please like and subscribe our channel.
Thank you so much.